now going to Jim Mars with Bob Chapman riding in the wings with us to comment, and then your calls. Jim, we'll have you back up the next few weeks for a full-hour interview. I'm glad you reached out to us. I'm flattered you listened to the show with Bugliosi. But Bugliosi, I was waiting for him to tell me that JFK, was killed that day flying a magic carpet. I mean, he just he was using the appeal to authority. Explain to people what the one-trick pony Bugliosi does.
Well, that's the whole deal. Number one, he obviously doesn't even understand the full ramifications and all the details of the case. But yet he's an appeal to authority. Here's a guy prosecuted the Manson family, so, whatever he says has got to be correct. So he'd just tell you anything, and people say, well, Vincent Bugliosi said that. But I might point out that his 1,700-page book, which I refer to as the doorstop, is the most remaindered book in publishing history. In other words, they sent back more than they ever sold. Number one, nobody can pour through the thing.
What's your proof of that?
That's what I was told by sources in the publishing industry. I mean, they have numbers for all of this stuff. But, Alex, this is how silly it all is. On page 1,142, Bugliosi gives us a 3-page dialogue between a fictitious mafia figure he calls Vito and Jack Ruby. And he says something like this would have had to take place. And so he says, Jack, I got a little job for you. The boys want you to whack Oswald, silence him. And he says, well, gee, I don't know. I really have to do that, how does a guy come up with clever thinking like that? Vito, oh, forget about it, Jack. Anything for an old pal. Sounds like a bad Sopranos script.
Okay, so what you're saying is Bugliosi had a lobotomized chimpanzee writing this.
Yeah, really. And then over here on page 422, he says, now here is to comprehend how that the one bullet could go through two guys. He said, I finally came up with this simple method. What I did was, this page 422, extend the palm and forefingers of your left hand, representing the human body, straight up perpendicular to the ground. Now incline your hand backwards, that is to your left, illustrating the president leaning forward. Now take your right index finger, keeping it straight, point it straightly downward, putting the tip against the palm of your open hand. The tip represents the descending bullet. Boy, how's that for some proof? Take your fingers and point them and move them around. I mean, this guy is too much. And yet he comes out and quite confidently says, yes, well, we've solved the case. It was Lee Harvey Oswald. Well,
let me stop you. How about, because, he has written a lot of best-selling books. He is a smart guy. He was very nice to me. He's a friendly fellow. He wanted to indict Bush on war crimes. So I agree with him on some issues, disagree on others. I think he genuinely believes that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. How about I try to get you guys on a radio debate?
Oh, man, I'm all for it. But I'll bet you a dime against a dollar he turns you down. Because, I've followed him before, and he came out with his 5 absolute facts that prove Oswald did it, and I've shot down all 5 of them. Okay, so I'll bet you he didn't do it, but I'm willing. I'll go for it. But keep in mind, we're dealing with somebody who is not really into rational debate. See, in a debate, one side presents their facts and evidence and then their arguments, and the other side presents their facts and their evidence and their arguments. Bugliosi, his response to criticism is to call his opponents, and this is a partial list of names in his book, zanies, sillies, moonshine, silly buffs, conspiracy theorists, cuckoo birds, crackpots, nuts, and publicity seekers. See? That's his rebuttal to contrary evidence and facts. Anyway, you're right. But here's what gets me. He is a smart person. That's why I cannot believe in the depths of my soul that he truly believes what he's writing. which means there must be some ulterior agenda. And I'm not about to address that because I have no idea what that might be.
Well, I want to bring Bob Chapman in, but then I want to address the heart of the matter. He would just, with these sweeping statements like, everyone knows the moon is made of onion, or everyone knows the moon is made out of bowling ball chips.
And when we all know it's made out of green cheese.
So what I'm saying exactly is just off the wall. He would say, that's ridiculous. No proof. No one saw shooters on the knoll. And I start listing him. He's like, no. I mean, he on record, how many witnesses saw the poof of smoke, saw the green pickup, saw the guys with the rifles, they picked the tramps up?
Dozens. But here's the two critical ones, okay? Kenny O'Donnell is one of Kennedy's personal aides, okay, and Dave Powers and Kenny O'Donnell, two of Kennedy's personal aides, and in Tip O'Neill's book, he went and talked with them, and they said, we saw smoke coming off the grassy knoll, and we both figured that there was somebody shooting from the grassy knoll. But the FBI told us that they didn't want to confuse the case, and they didn't want to cause any trouble, so we went along with that, and we didn't say anything about that. There you go, folks. Two of Kennedy's top aides said shots came from the knoll. And Bugliosi
But there are people
witnesses
that are in FBI reports where there are cases where it got in the reports.
Oh, absolutely. Gene Hill, who was right across the street, in her January '64 FBI report, plainly states that there was a shot from the grassy knoll. She looked up.
But here's Bugliosi. No one said it. And I said, well, wait, people said it. The guy at the train station. No, after the fact. And I'm like, he got killed right after it.
After the fact.
No proof. No one. You're like listing names.
After the fact.
Listen.
Hey,
I interviewed Grody.
Everything is after the fact, right?
Well, listen, I interviewed Grody, who ended up, he's 90-something years old now.
I think Paul Grody, the funeral home director.
I mean, that guy owns, a big chain of giant funeral homes around Texas. At the time, he owned this one. And he came on my show first. He'd given a few newspaper interviews, but people like Bugliosi would similarly say, that's not real. They didn't talk to him. Well, it turns out he came to a Talk Fest event I was at with his son, and he told me, there with all the background talking and stuff, no, the FBI came. I had Lee Harvey Oswald's body. They put ink on it because they wanted that print to stick, and they rubbed it on it. And then they went and robbed it out of the crypt later. And then I said, well, come on the radio and do an interview. And he came and did the interview. And then I was coming to do another interview at his house, and somebody ran him off the road, and they said, and he almost died. And they said, we might not want to do the interviews now.
Well, listen, Paul Grody, he was the director there at Miller Funeral Home in Fort Worth, and I was with just a few years after the assassination, like 3 or 4 years, I was police reporter there, and I got to know Grody. And we were good friends, and he was a very honest, down-to-earth guy, as I'm sure you realized after talking with him for a while.
Oh, he's an old-timer, solid as a rock.
Yeah.
A great Texan. That's why he did so well in business with funeral homes all over the state.
Yeah.
And there you were.
Hey, by the way, he also told me that the Secret Service came to him about a week after they buried Oswald, and they were asking him about scars on the body and marks and physical things like that. And then one of them remarked and said, we really don't know who we have in that grave. Isn't that something?
Yeah, he told me that as well. And I remember people before I ran into him and then pulled it up and confirmed he was who he said he was and went out to his house and stuff. I had read people going, Mars makes that up in his book, that the funeral home guy says it. No one says it. It's not true. What about the railway switcher station guy that was like 60 yards away, the switch station still there in the parking lot, who saw him bigger than Dallas with the weapon?
Right. Yeah. And in fact, that's interesting because when he was testifying to the Warren Commission, he got right to the point where he said, and something caught my eye down there at the corner of the fence, and it was probably the Senator
inspector. He was an aide at the time.
Inspector, yeah. And he just says, well, were there a lot of people coming in later on? And he just directs him directly away from that, from what he was fixing
and
to
they
say.
said, wow, this aide is great. He came up with the magic Easter Bunny bullet and everything else. We're going to have to make him a senator. Let's get Bob Chapman's take on this and then take a few calls all over the map. Bob Chapman, I know that you're one of those insane people that questions who killed Kennedy. I think it's unreasonable.
Well, I think you're right. And I have a personal interest, not a professional one like Mr. Mars, but I knew the Kennedy family when I was young. I used to caddy for Joe Kennedy during the summer times at Oyster Harbor's Country Club when I was a teenager. So it interests me very much. I lived in Los Angeles for 36 years, and I knew people in the district attorney's office very, very well because they were neighbors of mine in Malibu. And so I knew the reputation of Mr. Bugliosi, and he might have been very nice to you, but he's not very well liked.
Yeah, I don't think he liked me calling him Vincent Diablo Bugliosi the other day.
Yeah, well, he's arrogant, for one thing, and that bothers me.
Well, that's the know-it-all syndrome. But, you know, there's all kinds of things that go on in DA's offices that never escape. And because of my relationship with people who work there, and some people who still work there.
Just stop. You're going to get us in trouble again, like the Ronnie thing and the...
All right.
I don't even want to go there. It's just... Bob Chapman. By the way, stuff Bob says sounds nuts, and you go look it up. Everything he says historically, he was there, he did it. He did all these things. So he tells us he was caddying for the head of the Kennedy family. I believe it. I got to get you on, Bob, just sometime for all the stuff you've seen in your life. You've seen a lot of stuff.
That would be fun because... a very unusual life, and I'm very happy about it because I've done things that nobody else has done, and it's been very exciting. I thank the Lord that I was given the opportunities that I was given.
By the way, I want to give listeners a chance to call Midas Resources and get a free hard copy or email copy. The latest International Forecaster comes out a couple times a week digitally and a few times a month hard copy. You can go to MidasResources.com and link through, or call 800-686-2237, 1-800-686-2237. And, of course, Jim, give us your website.
Well, oddly enough, it's jimmars.com.
Very odd.
And by the way, let me get in a plug here. Right now, you'll see the old website, but I'm in the process of putting a whole new website, so everybody's listening. Give me, I don't know, a few weeks and get this new thing up, and I think you're going to be very impressed with what these people have come up with.
Well, Jim, we're impressed with you. We like you, not even the newfangled website.
Well, you know, and same thing that Chapman said. Let me put in my little self-plug here, too. Nothing I have written in general, okay? Now, there may be, everybody makes mistakes. There may be a detail here or there. But nothing I've ever written has been proven to be wrong. In other words, I've only tried to tell the truth my entire life. And what gets me is I'm still the conspiracy theorist, and yet the federal government, which has been caught in lie after lie after lie, and doubled on other lies, they still put something out, and the corporate mass media just runs with it like it's gospel.
No, they could can elephant poop and tell people that it was chocolate icing, and ABC, CBS, Fox reporters would open the can and eat it and feed it to their kids.
That's right, and I just don't quite understand that because I treat everybody the same. If you lie to me once, I can be pretty forgiving and think, well, maybe you made a mistake. If you lie to me twice, it raises my eyebrows. You lie to me 3 or 4 times, that's it. I don't want to have anything to do with you.
Absolutely. Of course, the government, when don't they lie? When they tell the truth, it's like finding a 4-leaf clover. The little Lucky Charms guy. All right, we'll be back. Take a few final phone calls. Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds?